My first guest tonight was one of many people who actually testified at today's budget hearings. He is the Archbishop of the New York Catholic Diocese, Timothy Dolan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate being on. Thanks for your interest.
So you actually testified today. It's a little unusual. You've never done this before.
I never done it in New York. I did do it in Wisconsin because I used to be Archbishop of Milwaukee. So sometimes they would invite me. Kind of the same issues. You know, the church is always big into education, health care, immigrants, housing, feeding the poor. So whenever there's budget problems, as there always is, guess what issues are always they're taking the razor to? Those issues that are close to the heart of the church. So I've had to do it before.
So I saw your testimony, and one of the things that you're unhappy about is that you feel that it's not actually just religious education. It's private education. It's yeshivas, for example.
Independence, yeah.
So these cuts are actually larger than the cuts that the public schools are going to see.
They are. A couple things. Thanks for noticing that. Yeah, first of all, the cuts are larger for us than they are for the government schools. And secondly, one of the things I'm saying is, look, I know these are tough budget times. I know you can't maybe give out more money. Can't you at least give us what you've already promised? Since 2002, the state passed a law about these mandatory services. In other words, services any school provides, nursing, special courses, that kind of stuff, the state reimburses the kids, okay? Right. We haven't gotten them. We haven't gotten those since 2003. Now, you've got our schools, Liz, that are pretty strapped anyway, that budget on that and count on that, and for 9 years they haven't gotten it. I said, just kind of follow through on your promises. What would you do to a citizen of the state of New York that said, I haven't paid my taxes for 9 years?
Okay, but
I'm saying, would you just follow through?
Okay.
We're kind of not asking for anything new, but just let justice be done.
Well, and give you what you're owed is what you're saying.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, if they're not going to give you that money, then why would you consider yourself beholden to any of their rules if that's in fact the case?
I guess one could say that. In other words, you're not following your commitments. We're not going to follow ours. I guess that would be somewhat childish, and that wouldn't be the kind of thing you'd expect from ethical or moral people. And I certainly hope we are. That's what we're all about. So that's not an option for us.
But these are private schools. I mean, people pay tuition, correct?
Yeah.
So then what a public school parent might say, okay, well, if I wanted to send my kid to private school, there are private schools like, I don't know, Holy Names for, well, that's not a good one. Albany Academy, not affiliated with any religious institution. People pay complete tuition there. So why should the state be giving considering separation of church and state, giving any support at all?
Well, there'd be a philosophical question here, I think. And hold me to that separation of church and state, because I want to get back to that. I'm not trying to dodge it. The philosophical issue, really, that we've always said, and it's kind of American as apple pie, who has the responsibility for the education of children? It's parents, right? The state traditionally collaborates and helps, but we're not North Korea. We're not China, where the government says, we take your kids and educate them. No, our government says, we'd be happy to provide this service, but we know first and foremost it's your right. So if you take the corollary of that, logically, is that, well, a parent should be able to decide where his or her tax money is used for the education of his or her child, because that's his or her right. Now, we're not asking for the state to finance our kids going to Mass or learning religion or that kind of stuff.
But how do you separate that out? I mean, that kind of instruction is given in
You
a
bet it
private
is.
school.
And we would. But what about helping us with chemistry? What about helping us with the gym teacher? What about helping us teaching in the history class? I wouldn't ask them for catechism class. And as a matter of fact, we're sort of saying, just help us educate the kids, draw the line where you want. Come from Milwaukee, they do it there, and it works pretty good. I spoke about that today.
Yep.
So the parents say, there, Liz, if I'm a Baptist or if I'm an atheist and send my kids to a Catholic school, which they want to do, and if I don't want them in the religion class, I can opt out, and the school has to.
But you still pay the same tuition, don't you?
Well, they would pay the same tuition, sure, yeah.
So, okay, I also wanted to ask you this. First of all, you were well received, I thought, today.
Was it? I didn't have anything to gauge it by.
They didn't grill you per se, but it's unclear whether or not anybody is going to actually manage to get.
Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was surprised about is that you talked about the MTA payroll tax, which is not a logical area for the Archbishop to discuss.
No. What we thought is that this is kind of a good example of where I think there's an injustice, okay? So there's an MTA payroll tax levied, and the state said, oh, by the way, because we are so admirably concerned about education, our students and teachers are exempt. in public schools. And all I'm saying is, wait a minute, are you for our kids, where they go to school to secondary, or are you just for the public schools? This is a blatant example of what I would call prejudice or bias. And so I thought this is a rather dramatic example of some of the imbalance that's there.
Is there a complete dollar amount that you're seeking to get back
There would
from
be
him at this
in
point?
the yes, and now I'm going to draw a blank on number
And
2.
I am too.
But Liz, the first one I do recall is about $270.
Right.
That's $270 million.
Right.
That's pretty clean arithmetic. That I said that's how much is owed us. Now I said I hope you'd agree that I tried my best to be reasonable. I said I know you can't pay it all back immediately, but could you at least correct the formula? Could at least you say we're going to begin to pay it back, and here's the scale that we're going to pay it back, so our poor principals and parents and pastors are able at least to balance in a prudent way,
Actually,
know their budget.
It's because I just happened
What
to be there.
is it,
7.5 million in the 2011-2012 budget to
Okay.
reimburse religious and independent schools for the MTA costs. That's so basically public school kids are not paying that tax.
They're not paying it.
And
Yeah.
you guys are.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you talked about today is choice.
Yeah, sure. Now that's a bigger
not
issue.
in the choice in terms of women's issues, choice in terms of school issues. We could get
This
to
is
that
an area
later.
that we're pro-choice in when
Right.
it comes to education.
Indeed.
That's for sure.
Indeed.
But this is a thing I'm passionate about because of the Milwaukee experience. Milwaukee is looked upon as somewhat of a paradigm, as sort of a pioneer in giving the kids under the poverty level. Their parents get the money, what it costs, what they give to the school, and they can designate which school it goes to. So the Catholic schools, independent schools in Milwaukee are overflowing, and the people love it. Now, my point today was, guess who else benefits? The public schools. Because parents aren't fleeing the city, more people are moving to the city, public school enrollment is going up as well, they're getting more subsidies and students, and the competition is good. So this high tide raises all the boats. I'm saying, seems to be kind of a no-brainer, folks. We're helping one another.
You know, what's interesting about Governor Cuomo's budget is there's been a lot of people who come into this studio and talk to me about advocates for the poor in particular who are concerned because some of the programs that are getting cut, funding, the first thing that happens is funding for programs, Medicaid, for example, public school education. Your focus for today was public school education. But are you concerned generally speaking?
Are we ever? See, you got it. You're singing the song. Welcome to the choir. Because these are the areas where, and God bless them, the governor and state officials are pretty blunt, and they'll say to me, we're going to need you more than ever, because guess who's going to have to take care of some of these people that the state no longer can? Our nursing homes, our emergency rooms, our housing.
But if you
for
don't
the
have
poor.
the money, that's going to be a
It's
problem.
tough. And that's why you'll find us up here a lot saying, wait a minute, somebody's got to give a voice to the voiceless. And if that's not the church, who is it?
There are a couple of policy issues that are coming up,
Sure.
one of which is gay marriage. When you first came on, it was how long, 2 years ago now? Is that?
Yeah, it'll be 2 years, April 15th.
Okay. You actually made a fairly strong couple of statements about that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, people asked me about it right away, and I thought, well, I can't dodge the issue. I got to tell the truth.
Okay. So have you spoken to the governor about this?
No,
If not.
I'm kind of hoping maybe hoping against hope, that it doesn't go anywhere. It seems to me that our state leaders, and I'm so grateful they're tackling the budget head on, they got bigger fish to fry. And I'm hoping instead of dabbling in something where I feel the government has no business, namely a redefinition of marriage, I'm hoping wise voices will prevail and said, we don't need to get into that. We've got a lot more pressing
But the
issues.
governor has said he thinks
He
that it's
said
something
he
he
is,
wants
but,
to do this session.
But leaders say a lot of things, and let's see what if he's strenuous in following through.
And if he is?
Yeah, he could expect me and the bishops and the Catholic community to say we can't go along with this one.
Okay, but how strongly would you advocate against it?
Well, we've done it before. You know, what can you do? We issue statements. We try to rally the troops. We bishops don't tell people how to vote. We don't press things down their throat. We simply say, look, you folks are in the public square. It's the finest American tradition to let our morals, our religious convictions influence the way we conduct ourselves. This is a pretty important issue. We hope you'll follow through and let your elected representatives know that you don't think the state should butt into this.
And then there's this other bill that is the health and reproductive wellness
Yeah, we're
Act.
worried about that one. I hope I think you may be familiar, Liz. A couple of weeks ago, I got together with other religious leaders in New York, and even some leaders who of no particular religion
Oh yes,
whatsoever,
this was a big issue.
and said, look, I mean, I don't know why in the world in this state, we need a law to strengthen the right to abortion. It's pretty strong as it is. And I'd like to see a law to strengthen the right of the baby in the womb. But I don't know why the state would even need this.
Well, I think the concern is that there might be a nibbling away at Roe versus Wade at the U.S. Supreme Court level, and that the hope for advocates is that they would strengthen at the state level in order to sort of, I don't know, inoculate themselves against a federal.
Sure. Well, I hope there is a nibbling away at Roe v. Wade on the federal level, but this is a real, we have real strong convictions in this one.
Sure.
That we have to, I just spoke about giving the voice to the voiceless. The ones without a voice would be the baby in the womb, and we just say we just feel we got to do our best to protect that life.
The issue with you and other religious leaders was the abortion rates, was it not?
Yeah, we were worried that New York was the abortion capital of the world, and we tried to say, look, even our opponents on this issue say that we want to keep abortion safe, legal, and rare. Well, let's all get together and say a 44% abortion rate, and even higher among blacks and Hispanics, is not rare.
Okay.
So could we all work together to in a healthy way, bring that down?
There's a discussion now about how they would be cutting Medicaid in terms of $2.85 billion worth of cuts. Some concept about service reductions, maybe. Is this an area that you think should be discussed, that no longer funding abortions with Medicaid dollars?
I think even if we were flush with dollars, I'd like to see that one talked about, because I just don't think we should be funding that. Yeah.
And I just want, before I let you go, and I should because we're running out of time. However, you've spoken a lot about Milwaukee. This week you are in the news. You are in the news.
You had to bring that
I'm
up.
so sorry.
Let's talk about spring training.
No, I don't know anything about baseball, Archbishop, so we're in trouble. Basically, you've got a situation back home, or your former home, rather. You've
Milwaukee.
got an attorney who says he's going to seek depositions from you regarding the moving of money around. He says
I hope he does.
Okay.
I would be willing.
But he hasn't yet.
I'd go on TV to say, look, here's what happened. You know the story.
I do, but tell the viewers briefly.
When I got to New York, I look at our financials, as any wise person would do, I guess. I say, look at this. We got $70 million here in savings from parishes that belong to the people, not to me. I wonder why that is. I ask our finance council, made up of lay people, prominent business women and men in the community, and I say, should this be here? They say, Archbishop, get rid of that. That ain't your money. That belongs to the people. That belongs to the parishes. It's deceptive to have this on the archdiocesan books. We don't have the people power to shepherd it properly. Give it back. It belongs to the parishes. I did. The auditors say, give it back. We publicized it. There wasn't anything hidden about it.
And he says that you were giving it away because you didn't want to use it to pay settlements for priest abuse.
Well, I couldn't have. It wasn't my money anyway. He also says that I protected the cemetery funds, so that couldn't be used. Well, I didn't protect it. The state law of Wisconsin protected it and said nobody can touch that. That's in there for perpetual care of cemeteries. He's blaming me for that. I called it malarkey. Wanted to use a stronger word, but I guess
that would be inappropriate, of course.
Prevail.
But so you're saying that you would be willing to be deposed?
Oh my gosh, sure. I had nothing to hide. I made a lot of mistakes. This is not an area, and I think there's a great tradition of fiscal responsibility, transparency, integrity in the Archdiocese of Milwaukee. I'd be happy to talk to anybody.
No, well, very good. So when it happens, hopefully we will have you back. It is a pleasure
Get me
to speak
on.
to you.
Thank you, Liz.
Nice to meet you,
My first,
sir.
I hope not my last time on with you.
I hope so too.
Okay. Thank you.